Holla ballers, what's going on? It's Preacher, and we had the Transmog competition this weekend. For those of you who keep asking me when it was this weekend. It was on Saturday, and what a turnout it was. Over 5,000 of you joined us on Twitch live to go through it, but also we've had lots of feedback with mixed ideas about how we could do it better, how we could improve. Considering so many of you were involved, I think it's worth addressing some of those concerns here, because judging by my email inbox, it needs to be addressed, right? It needs to be addressed. So I'll put some Shattered Halls time walking in the background. There's even a wipe in there, Shattered Halls Forever. I finally discovered it was due to a Shadow Cascade. Not the best spell to be using in there, especially when we're going fast. But there you go. Always, everybody wipes every now and again. So, onwards. What did we talk about? Well, this Transmog competition presented a few issues for us. In fact, nearly everybody involved, which isn't just me, told me that it was impossible. But for reasons that I'm more aware of as the creator of the show, I knew it had to be possible. This was the situation I was in. While I was being told it was impossible, I'm also aware that it has to be possible without literally annoying way more people than we could possibly do. So the first issue was, we're really big now, which means when we do a Transmog competition, a lot of people want to get involved, which means we had over 1,000 submissions. Now, we actually had way more than we showed on the show, because a lot of people sent things like dead links, but were still trying to take part, or sent links to various websites for me to go and get their Transmog from, in which case I'm just not risking it, and so those had to be cut. So what we had left who sent it perfectly, which is always difficult on the internet, was over 1,000. Now, we have a couple of problems there. One, we can't give them a lot of time, because otherwise we'll be having like a 6-hour show, and as some of you might be like, yeah, let's have a 6-hour Transmog show. No, that would be awful. That would be really, really bad. From just a producing perspective, trying to keep hype about transmogs, especially over 1,000 of them, giving them all a lot of time, let's say even if it was like 10 to 15 seconds, that would be really, really hard to do. And I would imagine the last sort of 3 hours, 2.5 hours would really drag, with us struggling at some point. There's only so much you can say about certain transmogs, especially when you run into mediocrity. So a lot of you suggested, why don't you cut some of them out? Well, who do we cut out? What is it based on? It would be based on me, probably, or Ghosty, going through them. We did have offers from other people, going through them and trying to cut out ones that we feel aren't any good. So we would keep in, more than likely, for the sake of entertainment, the really bad ones and the really good ones. Then that leads to the question of, especially when you have over 1,000, in which the majority will be kind of not stratospheric and some will be really bad, is you're cutting out a hell of a lot there, and those people are like, well, where the fuck is mine? And then the question, which is fully in the right to ask this, is why was mine cut? What can I do to improve? And then we end up with a whole host of problems at the back end, of which I just simply do not have time for. It took me over 3 hours to download all of the transmogs, and that was cutting some of them out. And I mean by cutting, I mean like 500 probably got cut. And cutting those out, and then getting emails at the back end asking me, well, why was mine? And then maybe even sifting through it, or they send it again, and then trying to give feedback on that, because you wanted to take part in my tournament, right? You wanted to take part in my competition, so I owe you a responsibility at that point to then try and help you out in some fashion. So that doesn't work either. We could have then, so the next idea was, why don't you do it over multiple shows? Why don't you do several web shows? Well, to do it reasonably, you're probably talking 3 web shows there of just transmogs. That's not really viable in terms of from an entertainment perspective, right? This is still a job, and I'm hoping to entertain you in some way. On the other end of that, as proved by my email inbox once again, I've had over 300 transmogs since the competition. So if we run it over 3 web shows, which would take about 6 weeks, what we then run into is the issue of people sending them after the competition because they watched the show, or they drifted on Twitch, or they forgot it was going on, then sending us, and then asking the question at the back end is, where was mine? Why is mine not in there? When's the cutoff date? And all this kind of problem then starts to occur with people saying, hey, can you come in there? And you might be sitting there saying, well, tell them to fuck off. That's not a good thing to do to your audience, is to tell hundreds of people to go and fuck themselves. That's not a really good thing to do. It's a really bad idea, and I personally find it really offensive to you guys to say, hey, I'm having a competition, I'm going to be running this over the next 6 weeks, but I'm only taking submissions that occurred 6 weeks ago. Anything you send me after that, I'm flat out ignoring. So, I will say, first of all, stop sending me transmogs. The next competition isn't announced yet. We're going to do it at the end of WOD. So, it's like the finale for WOD, and we'll have like a Champions of Champions, and we have a themed transmog competition coming up, where you can look like somebody else. The themed transmog competitions are always really good. Those are coming, but not yet. So, don't send them, because they're going to get buried. I get so many emails, guys, that I can't possibly reply to them all. Sending your transmog now, it's going to get archived before it gets read, unfortunately. I just don't have time to sit and go through them. I really don't. I wish I did. I don't. I barely have time to... I raid one night, and that was just it. Do you know what I mean? I just don't have time with a new baby and stuff to sit and go through all the transmogs. I genuinely wish I could. I just can't. I really can't. So all these then led to the fact that we had to do all 1,000 in one night. I hope you understand now the reason why we had to do that, because not doing that creates way more problems. That meant we had to limit the amount of time we could look at the transmogs to 3 seconds, which would then reduce it to about a 1 hour video. So we're talking about 3 seconds per image. That's still an hour video, right? Of different transmogs transitioning every 3 seconds, with still building in time to stop and pause on the ones that stand out. And many of you felt, from an observer point of view, that a lot of them didn't get fair credence. They didn't get a fair shout. Or more importantly, what I'm noticing, I am basing this entirely off the 300 plus emails I've had since the competition, is that yours specifically didn't get enough feedback and you thought it was better than what we gave it. What I can say to that is, one, it's completely subjective, right? You're asking us to say whether or not we like your transmog. That's the competition. It's supposed to be fun. It always started as fun. And if we know within 3 seconds whether or not it blows our dicks off. We just know that, okay? So it's no problem. If you love your transmog, don't be upset that we didn't love your transmog. If you log in and think my character looks fucking badass, then your character looks badass to you, right? That's fine. Don't worry about my opinion on it. It's a fun competition. It's supposed to be a bit of fun to see what's out there and hopefully inspire a lot of people to get good ideas. It's amazing how many people watch the transmog competition on YouTube. My 5th biggest video ever is the MOP transmog competition. It's rocking up near 1 million views. Right? So it's kind of a big deal for me when we do these shows. So although you may feel you got shortchanged, I apologize for you feeling that way, but understand we believe wholeheartedly, me and Ghosty, as we talked about it afterwards and how we got through the show, is we believe that what was the best were the ones that ended up in the winner's circle, and we're more than happy with the choice that the community made, which is a straw poll, to decide what the actual winner was. We have no issue with that at all, and we don't believe, while we could have added more verbiage, yeah, we could have added more verbiage to each and every transmog. We could have done that. We would have never got through the show, and ultimately, there wasn't much to say about some of them. A lot of them are very decent. The vast majority, probably 90% plus, are very, very cool. They're not stellar, right? We're looking for a competition. We're looking for the absolute stellar. And then we had further comments on top of that, which were, oh, you've only let, say, 3 or 4 out of the first 500. Maybe you should start letting more in. No, because we're looking for the best of the best. If the best of the best isn't there, we're not going to add it for the sake of trying to fill some sort of imaginary quota that goes into the winner's circle. So we ended up with 7, I believe, at the end, out of 1,000. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for like 7 out of 1,000. All right? That's what we're looking for out of the whole thing. So you can understand maybe now that we weren't shortchanging you. It was due to constrictions in the show, right? The show is constricted to a certain length, and we want to be done within 3 hours, reasonably. 3 hours is what we allot for a web show, because that's a normal amount of time for a show like that. We're not streaming a video game. It's 2 guys who are sat talking, trying to entertain you on their own in a room for 3 hours plus. Not many people could do that. It's really tough. It's really tiring. I know it sounds like the easiest job in the world. It's not. It's not at all. It's really not. You get very tired very quickly because you have to keep the show going. Any moment of dead space is not cool, right? Dead air is a nightmare in this scenario. You've got to keep talking, and therefore you've got to be creative on the spot all the time. In terms of what the audience feels was better, again, it's subjective, and it's not something people should be really pissed off about. Not saying, now, having said all that, I hope I explained how the show was, how I decide. I take full responsibility. I run the show 100%. Ghosty joins me, but the production and stuff is 100% on my shoulders, is why I made the decisions there. It had to be done in one night. It had to kind of fit within 3 hours to be of a reasonable length, and therefore that's how the show was best produced in order to not really shortchange anybody. For anybody who felt shortchanged, I think you would have been far worse off if we didn't show it at all and spent a lot of time on transmogs that weren't yours, then leading to questions of where's mine, why wasn't it included, and so on and so forth, all right? Now, going forward, I'm not saying that's the best idea. It's difficult. The transmog competition is really hard because there are so many submissions. And as we get to the next competitions, which will be the themed one, which is easy, because if it's not a close theme, we just don't bother. But the next one, which is the open-ended one, anyone can get in, we're always looking to improve, always looking to make the show better. And we certainly take on board the advice that the viewing audience and yourselves actually go ahead and say, you know, we would prefer a little bit longer just to assess the transmogs for ourselves. That's absolutely cool. We have no problem with that, because it's kind of an intense 3 hours when there's a new image every 3 seconds and you're trying to give some sort of judgment on it, which is easier for us as a competition standpoint because we're just looking for something that blows us away. As soon as it pops up, we're like, whoa, that's pretty cool. And if not, it's like, that's okay, let it slide. right? So we have a different experience than you do. So we'll take on board that you want your live viewing experience to be better. It's a little different on YouTube because you can obviously pause, right? And pause is a very big deal. If you see a class and a transmog you really like, you can pause it and check it out, and that's much easier for you to do. So I have taken your feedback on board, absolutely. We'll look to make changes towards the next one, and I will announce when the next Transmog competition is, okay? It will be at the end of Warlords of Draenor. We will still have the awards ceremony for Warlords of Draenor. I know you guys look forward to that, where we get suited and booted, and we present the various awards for the expansion. I'm sure it'll be a giggle, as it always is, but that is how it's going to go down, alright, guys? So I hope that answers most of your questions. I hope you understand why certain decisions were made, and, of course, we will take on board and try and adjust in the future, depending on what happens. Now, the issue will obviously arise if next time we get like 2,000 submissions or something. I don't know what we'll do there, but that's on my shoulders, not yours. And always open to suggestions. Don't be upset if I say no. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for a wonderful Transmog competition. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found some great ideas out of it. And congratulations to the winner for the super brutal Transmog victory. All right, bye-bye.